Hey guys, welcome back. So today we want to talk about turning the AR15 into an MCX, which seems to be the trend. How do you know your new firearm is setting trends and making waves in the firearms industry and the world? Well, first of all, the military might adopt the firearm, which recently happened with the Sig, the spear, and that is related obviously to the MCX Virtus. And so that has prompted other companies to kind of take a look at what the MCX is, what makes it unique, and try to copy that in other firearms designs. And inevitably in the United States, we try to turn everything into an AR-15 somehow, or we try to modify the AR-15 to function like every other gun in the world, be it an AK to a Virtus to whatever. That's just what we do here in the United States in the firearms industry. And that's what we're going to talk about with the AR-15 today. This is a relatively new product from the folks that brought us the Law Tactical side folding system. You will notice the bolt is to the rear, the carrier and bolt are to the rear, and I can fold the Law Tactical on this AR-15, and that's because of their new AR internal carrier system that they developed to work in conjunction with their folding stock adapter. And this is very much like the MCX in its design. Now, because YouTube, I was going to call them RudeTube, YouTube has changed the game on us once again. They've now changed the rules by which we in the gun community must play by. And one of those rules is we can't show you the safe loading and unloading and adding of accessories to firearms because they consider loading a firearm to be modifying the firearm, believe it or not. Therefore, the malfunctions that we've experienced with this system when it was new, we did get them on video, but because we're pulling the magazine in and out of the gun to clear the malfunctions, you're going to have to go over to Rumble to see the unedited version of this video so you can see what we're doing to clear the malfunctions that we were having with this system right out of the gate when we first started using it in the rifle. So with that being said, please be sure to go over to Rumble. There is a link in the video description below. Follow us over there for complete unedited videos where you can get all the information on how to safely use firearms. And like, share, and subscribe our Rumble videos. And if you feel so inclined, do it here on YouTube as well. All right, let's get started taking a look at this ARIC and sharing our thoughts on it, because this, I'm not really sure what practical purpose it serves. And it's not been 100% reliable yet either. In the military world, what is the purpose of a folding stock? Well, the answer is simple. It's meant for storage. It's not meant to be used like an 80s action movie. That's not what it's for. You can't hit anything like that. That's a huge waste of ammunition. The stocks are folded for storage the minute you deploy out of the vehicle or whatever, and you want to ready your weapon for firing. The first thing you do is extend the stock and then aim at the threat. So the whole point of the new ARIC system is to allow you to fire the weapon with the stock folded, which is something you shouldn't be doing to begin with. So unless you're in a third world military, using your weapon like this from the hip with the stock folded, or whatever you plan on doing with it, is sophomoric at best. It's not how the weapon's supposed to be used. Deploy the stock, aim at the threat, and make every shot count. What I'm about to show you is simple field stripping of the firearms for regular field maintenance. This is not modifying the firearm, YouTube moderators. This, under your rules, is still allowed as far as I know. I understand this could change next week and you'll retroactively punish us for it like you have been. But as of right now, under your current rules, we can show our audience how to field strip a firearm, okay? So, to field strip the MCX, you want to make sure that the weapon is clear. Remove the magazine, check the chamber, and then just like an AR-15, you just have a pin you pop out in the rear. Push down on it here a little bit because the pins are a little tight on the MCX. And then once it hinges open, pull your charging handle to the rear, your bolt and carrier comes out, and your T-handle. And I'm not going to go any further than that. I just want to show the basic design of the MCX. So what makes it different than the AR-15? Your recoil assembly rides above the bolt and carrier, not in the receiver extension, behind the bolt and carrier. Now, if you take a look at a standard AR-15, this is where your recoil spring would normally be in this receiver extension, or what some folks call the buffer tube, not above the bolt and carrier. So the Law Tactical system obviously gets rid of that. There's no spring in here anymore. It's just a hollow tube. And the recoil springs are riding inside the upper receiver, much like the MCX. Now, taking this apart is a little bit more difficult. So first, you want to make sure the weapon is clear. So we're going to go ahead and check the chamber, make sure the weapon is clear. Now we need to fold the stock to the side to access this plunger on the rear. There's a little button, the same button that you push to fold the stock to the side. You have to push that button all the way in and then push this plunger forward and kind of wiggle it around until it kind of gets past all the bumps and whatever inside there. It's not easy, but once you get it to that point, now you can start the disassembly process. I'm going to go ahead and you'll notice, see how the button is now sticking way out, all right? I'm going to go ahead and pop this pin out in the rear. And to open it, I'm still going to have to push my thumb inside of there, push it further in, launch that rear piece, so don't have it pointed at your face, and then you can take the bolt and carrier out, and I'll have to retrieve the piece that launched, and the T-handle. All right, let me retrieve that piece really quick. This is the part that'll cause you to receive dental work if you disassemble it wrong. Again, not the best design in the world. So now you can see what they've attempted to do here. They haven't moved the recoil system above because they don't want to increase the height, I don't think, of the upper receiver, like the FM products design. They've chose to put it back here and simply shorten the carrier. This piece is the plug that interfaces with the Law Folding Tactical system. This is what you're pushing in to get it to open up. And then we have guide rods on either side. See the guide rods for the recoil springs that ride on the outside of the bolt carrier. And what we found is that these recoil springs, even though they feel pretty stiff, they're underpowered, especially when the system is new. And with the full magazine, it struggles to strip and chamber around and get the extractor up over the rim. Now, the more you shoot the gun, the more it breaks in. Generally, that gets a little bit better. It has been for us. It's still not 100%, but maybe 500 or 1,000 rounds later, the thing might be working 100%. We've seen some folks on the internet doing things like taking out the extra spring tensioner inside their extractor so it'll more easily hop over the rim of the AR-15. I don't recommend doing that. The reason they put those extra power springs in there is to increase reliability. It's one of the weak points of the original design of the AR-15. So hopefully for most of you that for whatever reason might want one of these, you'll definitely want to take it out and shoot it quite a bit to make sure that it's going to be reliable, especially if this is something that you plan on using for self-defense. So one of the early problems that we were having with the gun was when we had a full magazine of the gun, the first 10 or so rounds, the gun wouldn't go completely into battery. It seemed as though the rounds in the magazine pushing up against the bottom of the bolt carrier was just enough friction to keep the gun from fully cycling and going into battery. So we found ourselves having to pull the bolt to the rear, reset the hammer, let it go home, but because there's no forward assist functionality, even though the gun has a forward assist, there's no cuts in the carrier for it to work. We were trying to push it home with our thumbs, and sometimes that wouldn't work. So we'd have to drop the magazine out, pull the bolt all the way to the rear, and let it slam home, trying to get that extractor up over the rim of the case. So now that we have, I don't know, I'm going to guess we have just right around 100 rounds through it. I have a full magazine in it, actually 29 rounds, and I'm going to see if it chambers. It did not. So you can see the bolt is slightly out of battery. That's because the bolt, even though it was locked completely to the rear, and I used the paddle release to release it, it didn't have enough spring pressure to strip that round, get it in the chamber, and get the extractor up over the rim. And because I don't have a forward assist, and because I don't, actually got it forced by my thumb. There we go. Okay, so it worked that time. So let's see if she works. All right, malfunction. And this is typical with a full magazine. And so, again, did not go fully into battery, even though I pulled the bolt all the way to the rear and released it, did not ride it home. Got to pop over with thumb pressure, so that's getting easier. Now I could hear the hammer fall and push the bolt home. So what happened was it was out of battery. When the hammer fell, it hit the carrier went into battery. So I'm going to pull it slightly to the rear, recock the hammer. All right. So now it's starting to work better because we've gotten a few rounds out of the magazine. I will say the trigger slap, especially in this really cold weather, is horrific, and it's very much similar to the early MCXs. That bolt carrier velocity is so fast, it's hitting that hammer so hard as it's coming back, it's causing the trigger to slap my firing finger. So that is another design issue with this particular ARIC system. That's wildly uncomfortable in the cold weather. All right, but it locked open that time. So even though we've gotten more rounds through it, it's still struggling with mostly full magazines. That wasn't even a full magazine. We were one round short. Let's take a closer look at the bolt and carrier assembly and how you would maintenance that for cleaning. So you're going to find a lot of similarities between this and a standard AR15. You'll notice it has a carrier key up here. This is because the system is direct gas impingement. The MCX is a short stroke piston. We have your typical cotter pin that's holding the firing pin in place. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that cotter pin out. And then your firing pin will drop out the rear. The standard AR15 type firing pin and cotter pin. Then we have a cam pin, just like on a standard AR15. Rotate that cam pin to its disassembly position, take it out, and then we have a standard AR15 bolt inside of the carrier. So all of these parts are standard AR15 and can be replaced with just generic AR15 parts. The key itself and the carrier are unique to the gun, and you'll notice that the carrier key doesn't have the two typical screws. You have two smaller screws up here holding it in place. So that is a proprietary part as well as the carrier. And then we have the recoil springs. The recoil springs are captive. You have full-length guide rods, but like the earlier MCX, you can pull the spring down, rotate this little plate out of the way, and then you can take the recoil springs off. And then the guide rods will just come right out the front. And I would not recommend doing this in the field because you will lose these little tiny parts. So as far as I would go is simply taking the bolt and carrier out of the receiver, cleaning it with something like CLP, wiping it down good, and then putting it back into the gun. And then to save this type of maintenance until you can get back to the rear, to your house, to an environment where you can keep track of these small parts and not lose them during the cleaning process. If you're one of those folks that still insists on shooting their rifle with the stock folded, there's something you need to take into consideration if you're looking at this ARIC system. I have the plunger pushed in for the beginnings of the disassembly process. And the reason I have it preset is because it's such a pain in the rear end to do. You know what? I'm just going to do it. Maybe it'll go easy. Maybe it won't. But when you start the disassembly process, you have to push this in. And this is not easy. Kind of have to wiggle it around. Okay, so that's the beginning of the disassembly process. It's also something that can be done while you're reassembling the gun, right? So this can stop here on this little rest. If you read what it says right here, close before firing. Why is that? Well, with this plunger pushed in for disassembly, the bolt cannot travel and the carrier cannot travel fully rearward. It's going to stop right there. So it's going to short stroke. You could probably fire the first round in the chamber, but it's not, with the stock folded, it's not going to reload the gun. To get it to reset, once you assemble the gun, when you close the stock, when I reopen it, you'll notice it's reset itself into the position where it will work. So close before firing, they're not kidding. You will want to do that, or you will want to push the button and release this before you start shooting it with the stock folded. So as you guys know, we work with Primary Arms quite a bit, and they have a new Odyssey line of products they announced at SHOT Show 2023. And one of those products is a new set of binoculars. And you'll see us using these out here on the channel. We're going to talk about a few more products that they've launched in 2023 in future videos. But these binos are 10x42s, and they're lightweight. They come with a nice canvas or nylon carrying pouch. And if you're looking for affordable binos for field use, for hunting and things like that, you now have an option being offered by Primary Arms. So let's do a cost analysis of the ARIC system versus a Virtus. So you're looking for the functionality of the Virtus, but you want to save some money potentially and do an AR15 conversion. A mid-tier AR15 will cost you anywhere between, let's just say, $1,000 and $1,500, right? Something like a BCM or something like that. An LWRC or something along those lines. Daniel Defense, something that's mid to upper tier, right? Now, of course, you do have options out there like Palmetto State Armory that offers AR-15, some of their blim lines and things like that. You can get as little as $600, $700. So you do have that option as well. If you take a look at the ARIC bolt carrier assembly, they offer it in two different flavors, a suppressed and unsuppressed. Again, to my opinion, this is a design flaw. There should be one, and it should just have a simple adjustment so that you can choose between suppressed and unsuppressed settings. It's been done before. It's not rocket surgery. So to me, that's a design flaw. And then secondly, the ARIC system will not work unless you invest in the Law Tactical folder. So you're going to have about 250-ish bucks in the Law Tactical folder. You're going to have about 400 bucks in the ARIC bolt and carrier assembly, plus the cost of your mid-tier AR-15. You're getting really close to $2,000. And guess what costs about $2,000? The Sig Virtus MCX. So, and this is a superior rifle in every way. This isn't going to have malfunctioning problems. This isn't going to care if you have a fully loaded magazine or not. It doesn't care if you fire it with the stock folded. It just doesn't care. This gun works. This is one of the best rifles on the market right now. It's my personal choice of favorite self-defense type firearms. The new Spear is just simply the new gold standard, in my opinion, for rifles. Now, one thing I always avoid doing here on the Military Arms channel is telling you what you should or should not buy. All I will tell you is what I personally would or would not do. So I'm not telling you not to buy the ARIC system. I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments section that say, I have this Mac and it's the most reliable thing I've ever seen. I've got 1.5 million rounds through it, and I even shoot .22 long rifle, and it just works fabulously, and you're just wrong. It's the most amazing thing ever. I get that. You do you. For me, this isn't even at the level of novelty usefulness. This thing is just useless to me because there's a huge missed opportunity here. I think if they would have just made a few adjustments, like making it with a simple adjustment for suppressed or unsuppressed setting, making it so it doesn't need the use of the Law Tactical folder. You could just use a K&S rear plug if you wanted to, giving it a little bit more functionality, then work out the problems with the reliability. Then it would get past the novelty section, maybe into the useful section. But when you're talking about after you assemble your complete rifle and you're trying to get to this, just go buy this, which is what I would do. And I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying it's what I would do and how I view this particular product. I think it's a huge waste of time and money. And I personally wish I could just send it back and get my money back. So anyway, there you have it. Brutal honesty. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you'd like to support us so we can continue to bring you content like this, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. You can follow the link in the video description below. Check us out over on Rumble. There's things we can't show you in today's video on YouTube that we can show you over on Rumble because they keep moving the goalposts on us here at YouTube. You can also support us right here on YouTube with the little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now, or you can jump over to Utreon, I'm sorry, I always want to put an L in there, Utreon, and you can support us over at Utreon. And we do have a link to that in the video description below as well. All right, guys, thank you for 15 years of support. Please check out Copper Custom, and we will talk to you guys soon.